discussion? Councilman Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. In looking at this, I'm always for progress with our city, but at the same time, as far as looking at how we grow, and I had a real rough day in the housing committee yesterday as far as looking at us giving loans out to companies back in 1996 and they're not paying the loans back, looking at how we do business in the past versus how we're doing business as of today. And I'm very interested in any company coming into Houston area or nearby Houston, but I have a problem when our veterans are out there looking for jobs and looking for work, and we can't seem to level the playing field for our veterans. When I was in the military, I left my job. I volunteered for the Air Force, but when I came back, I returned back to my job. That was the order of the day. Today's time, you volunteer for the military, you come back to your job is gone, you have to go find another job if you don't own that job or business. And what I ask for with Costco is a simple thing as to go to a system in which the federal government uses for hiring veterans and giving them points. That is a little leg up there, coming back to get a job, and they have an extra additional points to help them and assist them in getting paid, not employment, but in the application process of it. That's all that I'm talking about. And I submitted that to the administration, and the answer back came that Costco is paying for insurance for its veterans, their families, and so on and so forth. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a veteran having the opportunity to get a job and to find employment for his family. Another thing too is that we just came out of a brutal budget meeting and session, and that I believe that corporations across Houston should be involved in our after-school programs as well as our summer job programs. I believe that this is where we actually help our citizens do better. And I don't want to wait till 2015 to start discussion on this when I know as a pastor we're not given tomorrow to even be on this earth. But I would like to do our due diligence now while we have time and not wait a year later to do something. I believe that the time is now to ask the corporations for after-school help, after-school programs, ask the different organizations, get this thing together, summer job programs, get it together. That's what my request was for Costco, to get involved and be a good partner in the city of Houston. And it seemed as though I was told in a briefing that no matter what we say at this council table, that there will not be any more things, anything added onto Costco. The contract is final, it's done. That part I understood, that part I resent. I am duly elected by the citizens of Houston, Texas to work for the citizens of Houston. And when it comes to someone outside not elected in my place, making deals, and then telling me that we can't do anything, add or take away, but they need my approval and our approval to do it, I think it's wrong. And so therefore, I'm going to vote no against this. It's not that I don't want progress, I do want progress, but I don't like the idea of giving me 2 days notice on something that's been worked on for 4 months. I don't believe that is fair to the city council, and it's definitely not fair to me and my intelligence. Thank you.
Respectfully, Councilmember, the item went to committee in May. Councilmember Noriega.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank the administration. I had the opportunity to have several meetings about this with the administration. Apparently there were alternative sites that were not located in either Houston or the ETJ that we are able to access. I was able to have conversations as well about being strategic about this kind of incentive, talking about how to look at the whole city and figure out where we want to have certain kinds of development, what we need to do in a comprehensive, integrated sort of way. I'm comfortable that I was able to express my point. I am also comfortable that the alternative for this would have been for this location to end up in Katy. The amount of retail that's generated by Costco is almost the same as the Galleria. 40 years ago, if someone had said, let's not help the Galleria be here, looking back, it would have been a decision that would have been inexplicable. And so in the interest of an excellent retailer being in the city, I think it's a reasonable decision. I think the larger point, which is why do we do this, where do we do it, how do we do it most effectively, continues to be an active concern. And I just want to thank the administration for listening to my issues about it and working with me. Thank you.
Council members, I have to apologize. There was some kind of little hiccup, and all of a sudden the queue disappeared. So if you were in the queue, it's no order scramble. Sorry, we're starting over. Chair recognizes Councilmember Pennington.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank Councilmember Noriega for the investigation that she did, and also Councilmember Burks for what he did. The city has limited economic development tools, particularly in situations where it doesn't actually make a capital investment. It doesn't have to pick winners or losers and therefore risk losing capital. And the 380 programs are just that. That is, the developer is required to put in the new street infrastructure. And then the developer only gets paid from the increase in taxes, in this case, the sales tax. So I think it's an excellent conservative way to encourage economic growth inside the city and also in those parts of the extraterritorial jurisdiction where we benefit somewhat by it. And also in these kinds of things, I think that we have to trust the administration to do their homework. And I met both the Assistant Director of Development and Mr. Hicken as well. And I know they worked real hard on this to determine that, as Ms. Noriega said, that this is the right place to allow for a reimbursement of funds invested by the developer. So I'm going to vote for this. I do think that Councilmember Burks raises a large issue. As we all know, the federal funds for after-school programs and job training is diminished, and I don't think that, that's the trend has begun on that, and I don't think it's going to change. And I think that we need to pay some attention to a community effort to increase the participation for those programs which benefit the population at large, and we also need to identify specific benefits that corporations get by doing that. And it takes I think, a comprehensive effort to do that. I know you have to begin somewhere, and perhaps this would have been a place to begin, but I think that additional efforts in that area are worthwhile. That's one of the reasons I asked Mr. Turner about how many after-school programs we serve here. I think it's important to keep the focus on that because they're very needed programs. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I stand in support of this item. I generally do stand in support of any tax breaks that we can give our community, our businesses. And yes, we have to acknowledge there's a certain level of, should I say, hypocrisy in what we're doing today. On that, on one hand, we are supporting a tax break, and then on the other hand, we increase fees and rates on businesses. So we do need to look at, what are we doing in terms of selective and incentivizing, because certainly we can understand as representatives of our community that there are mom and pop shops that are in need of assistance. So they can assist communities that are in dire need of giving a facelift to revitalize thoroughfares. And many companies across the city need incentives to really help themselves bring the city forward. So what we do, our action today, and certainly I stand in support of this, basically is a testimony, proof to the principle that if we support economic development, if we support progress, if we support prosperity, we must, as elected officials, as government, find ways to continue to keep money in their pockets. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few comments, and we need to be placed back in the queue. like many custodians, I think that when we first saw this, I think that there's a red flag or some concerns that kind of come up simply because dealing and working with an ETJ in this type of capacity is a little bit unique or different. And so I've done my due diligence on this to try to read through it and to put myself not only in the eyes of a city council member, but also as a custodian, as a citizen. And so I want to speak a little bit to why I think there's some benefits to this, and to let those that may be in opposition of it, hopefully at least consider where I'm coming from. This is in an ETJ, but it's also within a strategic partnership agreement that's been in place already for 10 years with no revenues being generated for the city. So we still have an additional 20 years of potential out there for us to garner revenues. Now we have to be very strategic with this, because if a multifamily development were to occur there, then the city of Houston would generate nothing. It would generate nothing because we can only receive sale taxes from this partnership agreement. So we do have to be strategic. I know that many have said, well, they're still going to develop there anyway. Well, Costco has had the chance to close on this now on a couple of occasions, and they've yet to close because till the last minute they could technically still perhaps go to another site, potentially. And I think that by us having skin in the game, by us putting up $1 million with a conservative estimate of receiving at least $8 or $9 million in return, then I think that's a pretty good return of investment over the long term. We have 20 years to be realizing revenue from this site. Our investment is capped at $1 million. And the reason that we have to, or our involvement makes sense, is because this MUD does not have road power authority. So that's where our involvement comes in. We could use our road power authority to work to help install those necessary roads to provide better access to this location. And by this serving as a catalyst, hopefully it does help small businesses that now can see the Costco as a catalyst, as an anchor for the area, and bring additional retail sites to this site rather than just pad sites perhaps. So maybe small businesses can move in there, leverage the customer base from the Costco, and also not only benefit themselves, but also keep generating more tax revenue, because remember what I said, we could only generate sales tax revenue for the city of Houston. No city of Houston resident pays into this, because the reimbursement comes strictly from the increment that is raised on that site itself. So only after the investment has been done by Costco, after the revenue has been generated from the taxes from that specific site, will this be reimbursed back to them for the road work. No general fund, no city of Houston monies proper will be directed towards this project. And while technically, yes, it's a very lucrative site, very high profile, and likely Costco would still come there, I think to some extent, again, as I stated, by us having skin in the game, we guarantee that they do come into this area, that we could reap the well-paying jobs that Houstonians, based on the report, will also have access to. These are stable, well-paying jobs with benefits. So that's a good thing, not counting the construction jobs as well. And in long term, we could reap a much higher revenue than our $1 million. The road itself that we're looking at here is going to cost anywhere between $600,000 to $700,000 approximately for the roadway work. So it leaves very little extra increment for anything else. And initially, my understanding is the agreement was actually being considered for much more money. But thanks to the due diligence of our economic development team, Mr. Andy Aiken and Gwen Tillotson as well, they pared it down substantially to make sure that we could land on a reasonable amount that we felt that the city could leverage its road power authority, but also gain substantial benefit in the long run. So that's how I'm looking at this. I hope that more revenue is generated. I would hate for this development to happen 1 foot past our strategic partnership agreement where we would reap nothing. I would rather us control some of our own destiny here, make sure this investment is here, and leverage our $1 million to bring a much greater return to the citizens of the city. Because again, the revenues generated from that site, from this acreage, will pay back the reimbursement. We're giving nothing up front, they make the investment, and then